Hi guys, take a deep breath and settle into your pillows, letting the weight of the world above simply melt away as we prepare to drift together into a silent, hidden realm. Tonight, we are embarking on a long and quiet journey into the heart of the Mariana Trench, the deepest and most mysterious place on our blue planet. We will descend through the layers of the Pacific Ocean, exploring a world defined by absolute darkness, strange bioluminescent creatures, and the heavy, comforting pressure of the deep sea. We will touch upon the brave history of deep-sea exploration, from the earliest metal spheres to the modern voyages into the abyss, finding peace in the silence and the endless mysteries hidden beneath miles of water. For now, just let your eyes close and imagine yourself on the deck of a research vessel, gently rocking on the surface of the North Pacific. The sun is just beginning to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of lavender and bruised plum. The air is cool and salt-kissed, and the only sound is the rhythmic, hypnotic lapping of the waves against the steel hull. Below us, a vast vertical wilderness waits, stretching down over 36,000 feet into the Challenger Deep. You step inside a small, pressurized submersible, a sturdy cocoon of titanium and thick acrylic. The hatch closes with a muffled, metallic thud, sealing you away from the wind and the spray. As the crane lowers the vessel into the water, you feel a soft, weightless transition. The bright turquoise of the surface begins to deepen into a rich, saturated sapphire. You are no longer floating on the ocean, you are becoming part of it. The descent is slow, almost imperceptible, a gentle drifting downward through the sunlit zone. Here, the water is still vibrant, filtered with golden rays that dance like shimmering threads through the swell. Tiny particles of marine snow, the delicate remains of life from above, drift past your viewport like slow-motion dust motes in a sunbeam. You watch a school of small, silver fish flash by, their bodies catching the last of the light before they vanish into the blue. This is the beginning of a very long fall, a descent into a world where time seems to stretch and thin. As the gauges show you passing 500 feet, the bright blues begin to fade. You are entering the twilight zone, the mesopelagic layer, where the sun's reach starts to falter. The light here is a ghostly, ethereal indigo, cold and beautiful. It is a space of transition, where the familiar life of the surface gives way to the strange inhabitants of the midwater. You lean back into the soft padding of your seat, listening to the faint, melodic hum of the life support systems and the distant, rhythmic pulse of the sonar. It sounds like a heartbeat, steady and reassuring. The temperature outside is dropping, and you can almost feel the chill pressing against the thick walls of the sub, though you remain warm and safe inside your private sanctuary. You think about the explorers of the past, like William Beebe and Otis Barton, who in the 1930s sat inside a cramped steel bathysphere, dangling from a single cable as they lowered themselves into this very blue. They were the first to see the sparks of bioluminescence in the dark, describing them as explosions of light in a silent sky. Now, you follow in their wake, descending deeper than they ever dared to dream. The indigo around you is thickening now, turning into a heavy, velvety navy. At 1,000 feet, the last traces of red and orange light have been absorbed by the water, leaving only the shortest wavelengths of blue to linger. It is a quiet, lonely beauty. You feel a sense of profound stillness. The surface world, with its noise and its frantic pace, feels millions of miles away. Here, there is only the descent. You watch the depth gauge as the numbers slowly climb. 1,500 feet. 2,000 feet. The pressure outside is growing, a silent weight that the titanium hull bears without a sound, save for an occasional, tiny creak of the metal settling into its task. It is a comforting sound, a reminder of the strength of your vessel. Looking out into the gloom, you see the first signs of the abyss. A small jellyfish drifts by, its translucent body pulsing with a rhythmic, hypnotic grace. It glows with a faint, internal light, a rhythmic flickering of neon green and electric blue that traces the edges of its delicate tentacles. It is a living lantern in the growing dark, a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, life finds a way to shine. You are drifting deeper now, moving toward the bathypelagic zone, the midnight layer where the sun never reaches. The blue is almost gone, replaced by a soft, charcoal gray that feels like a heavy blanket. You find yourself breathing more slowly, matching the rhythm of the deep currents that move invisibly around you. There is no wind here, no storms, only the eternal, slow-moving rivers of the deep ocean, carrying cold water from the poles across the vast basins of the earth. You feel as though you are suspended in a dream, falling through a starless night. The silence is absolute, broken only by your own breath and the soft whir of the internal fans. You are entering a realm of giants and ghosts, a place where the history of the earth is written in the sediments of the sea floor, yet to be reached. Far below, the trench waits, a great scar in the crust of the world, formed by the slow, tectonic dance of the Pacific and Philippine plates. But that is still far away. For now, you are in the mid-waters, a vast expanse of mystery. You imagine the great sperm whales that dive into these depths, holding their breath for over an hour as they hunt in the dark. You feel a connection to every creature that has ever sought refuge in the deep. The water outside is now a deep, ink black. The transition is complete. You have left the world of light behind. The sonar pings again, a soft, high-pitched note that echoes into the void and returns with news of nothing but open water for miles in every direction. You are a tiny spark of consciousness in a vast, dark cathedral. The descent continues, steady and slow, as you settle deeper into the calm of the abyss. The shadows seem to pulse with a life of their own, and you feel a sense of wonder at the sheer scale of the space around you. You are traveling through a world that covers most of our planet, yet remains less explored than the surface of the moon. As the darkness wraps around the submersible, you feel a deep sense of peace. There is nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do, but drift and observe. The journey is only beginning, and the deepest secrets of the Mariana Trench are still waiting for us, miles below in the crushing, silent dark. As you sink further, the faint glow of the control panel reflects in the glass, a small constellation of amber and green lights that keeps you company in the endless night of the deep Pacific. The indigo world outside your viewport is now thickening into a shade of violet so deep it feels like the color of time itself, a heavy and ancient hue that signals the final departure of the sun. You are slipping through the 3,000-foot mark, leaving behind the last scattered photons of the surface world and entering the true bathypelagic zone, a realm of perpetual midnight. The water here is incredibly still, yet if you look closely at the edges of your external lights, you can see the endless, drifting dance of marine snow. These tiny white flecks, composed of organic matter and minerals from far above, fall like a slow-motion blizzard through the dark, providing a silent banquet for the unseen life below. It is a gentle, rhythmic rain that has been falling for millions of years, a constant connection between the sun-drenched surface and the cold silence of the trench. You watch a single flake drift past, illuminated for a heartbeat before it vanishes into the void. The pressure outside is now over 90 times what you would feel at the surface, a weight that would crush a lesser vessel like a discarded tin can, yet inside your titanium sphere, you feel nothing but a sense of profound safety and warmth. There is a soft, melodic ping from the sonar, the sound traveling through the dense water and returning with a lonely, echoing quality that underscores the immense scale of the space you are moving through. You think back to the early 19th century, to the days of the HMS Challenger expedition, when scientists first began to drop weighted lines into these very waters. Back then, many believed in the azoic hypothesis, the idea that life simply could not exist below 1,800 feet because of the freezing cold and the mounting pressure. They imagined a desert of silent mud and lifeless water, a vast and empty tomb. But as you descend further, you see how beautifully wrong those early theories were. A sudden flash of emerald light catches your eye, a tiny explosion of bioluminescence that ripples through the dark like a neon ghost. It is an Atala jellyfish, a creature that looks like a crown of living rubies. When it feels the vibrations of your sub, it releases a circular wave of light, a burglar alarm of the deep intended to draw in even larger predators to scare away whatever might be disturbing its peace. It is a mesmerizing sight, a slow-motion firework that leaves a fading trail of green sparks against the black. You drift past it, moving deeper into the cold, 4-degree water. The vessel groans softly, a deep and resonant sound that feels like a whale sighing in its sleep. It is the sound of the hull compressing by just a fraction of an inch, settling into the grip of the abyss. You find yourself leaning closer to the thick acrylic, staring out into a world that feels more like outer space than Earth. You are a passenger in a silent, vertical universe. Now, at 5,000 feet, you begin to see the more specialized residents of this mid-water gloom. A transparent octopus, nearly invisible save for its large, silvered eyes and a few internal organs, drifts by with a ghostly elegance. It looks like a sculpture made of blown glass, a delicate being that has evolved to be a phantom in a world without shadows. You wonder how it feels to live in such a perfect, weightless equilibrium, unaffected by the thousands of pounds of pressure pressing against its fluid-filled tissues. You feel your own heart rate slowing, matching the calm, patient pulse of the ocean. There is no urgency here, no clocks, only the steady increase of depth. You think about the first bathyscaphe, the Trieste, and the courage it took for Jacques Picard and Don Walsh to commit themselves to this same descent decades ago, strapped into a small sphere beneath a giant tank of gasoline. They were pioneers in a landscape that had seen no light since the world was young. You are moving through history as much as you are moving through water. The silence is becoming more profound now, a thick and velvety quiet that seems to wrap around your thoughts. Occasionally, you see a hatchet fish, its body thin as a blade and covered in silver scales that reflect your lights like a mirror. Along its belly, rows of tiny photophores glow with a soft, blue-white light, a clever camouflage known as counterillumination that breaks up its silhouette against what little light might filter from above. It is a masterpiece of biological engineering, a living jewel in the dark. You are passing 6,000 feet now, and the blue has finally vanished, replaced by an absolute, light-swallowing black. The water outside is no longer a color, but an absence of it. You feel as though you are floating in the center of a vast, starless galaxy. The only stars here are the ones made of biology. A siphonophore, a long, colonial organism that looks like a shimmering, golden rope, stretches out for dozens of feet into the gloom, its stinging tentacles draped like fine silk threads to catch unsuspecting prey. It is not one animal, but thousands of individuals working as one, a drifting city of light and purpose. You watch it undulate with the faint currents, a mesmerizing ribbon of gold against the charcoal void. The sense of isolation is not lonely, but rather a comforting embrace of solitude. You are a witness to a world that few will ever see, a quiet observer of the deep. The sonar continues its steady rhythm, a comforting heartbeat in the vastness. You can feel the cold of the Pacific through the layers of insulation, a reminder of the harsh reality just inches away, yet the air inside the sub remains dry and steady. You are descending at a rate of perhaps 2 feet per second, a slow and deliberate fall toward the bottom of the world. You think about the immense volume of water above you now, a towering pillar of liquid that stretches up to the waves and the wind and the moon. Down here, the moon has no influence, and the seasons are a distant memory. Everything is constant. Everything is patient. You are approaching the 7,000-foot mark, and the terrain of the water column seems to change. The marine snow is thicker here, and the creatures you encounter are becoming even more alien, with exaggerated features and shimmering, unearthly hues. You see a dragonfish with teeth like glass needles and a long, glowing barbel hanging from its chin, a lure for the curious in the dark. It moves with a slow, predatory grace, a shadow within a shadow. You feel the sub tilt slightly as it catches a deep-sea current, a river of cold water that has traveled thousands of miles across the ocean floor. You are part of the flow now, a speck of light in the great, dark heart of the Pacific. The journey is far from over, and the deepest reaches of the trench are still miles beneath your feet, hidden in a pressure so great it defies imagination. You settle deeper into your seat, eyes fixed on the blackness, waiting for the next spark of light to emerge from the eternal night. The descent is your only reality, a slow and peaceful falling away from the world of men and into the world of the ancient deep. The depth gauge now flickers with a steady, amber glow as you pass the 10,000-foot mark, crossing the threshold into the truly abyssal zone where the weight of the Pacific Ocean becomes a physical presence felt in every fiber of the submersible. You are drifting through a space that is as vast as it is silent, a liquid desert where the sun is not even a memory but a different reality altogether. Out here, in the charcoal black void, the temperature has leveled off at a near freezing chill, and the pressure has reached levels that would flatten almost anything born of the surface. You look out through the thick, reinforced viewport, seeing only what your external floodlights allow, a narrow cone of golden light that carves a path through the infinite dark. The marine snow is still falling, though it seems more sparse here, tiny white spirits dancing in the beams before being swallowed by the gloom once again. You feel a profound sense of isolation, a quiet realization that you are further away from other human beings than the astronauts orbiting high above the atmosphere. There is a deep, resonant comfort in this loneliness, a feeling of being cradled by the ancient heart of the world. You think of the brave men who first ventured into this crushing stillness in 1960, Jacques Picard and Don Walsh, huddled inside the cramped, 9-foot diameter pressure sphere of the bathyscaphe Trieste. Their tiny cabin was attached to a massive float filled with gasoline, and their only view of this world was through a small, conical window made of thick plexiglass. As they descended, they heard the sharp, terrifying crack of the window fracturing under the immense weight, yet they pressed on into the unknown, trusting in the laws of physics and the integrity of their steel shell. You can almost feel their presence in the water, the ghosts of explorers past who paved the way for your own silent journey. The hum of your life support system is a low, rhythmic murmur that blends with the occasional, musical ping of the sonar, a sound that stretches out for miles through the cold water before fading into nothingness. Occasionally, the lights catch something moving with a slow, ethereal grace. A Dumbo octopus, named for the ear-like fins that sprout from its head, drifts past your window like a floating ghost. It moves with a rhythmic, pulsing motion, its pale, translucent skin shimmering with a faint, pearly luster. It looks so delicate, so fragile, yet it is perfectly adapted to live under pressures that would shatter stone. It is a reminder that in the deep, strength is not found in rigidity, but in flexibility and the ability to exist in harmony with the environment. You are descending further now, toward 15,000 feet, where the water feels even heavier and more ancient. You see a group of giant amphipods, pale and shrimp-like creatures that have grown to unusual sizes in the cold, scavenging the floor for any trace of nutrient that might drift down from the distant sunlit world. They move with a frantic yet strangely beautiful energy, their translucent bodies casting long shadows against the dark water. Further out, a ghostly squid hangs motionless in the dark, its long, slender tentacles trailing behind it like silk ribbons. It is nearly transparent, a creature made of water and light, waiting with infinite patience for a meal that may only come once every few months. The stillness of the abyss is not a lack of life, but a different pace of it, a world where every movement is measured and every spark of energy is precious. You feel your own breath slowing to match this pace, your heartbeat syncing with the slow, deep rhythms of the trench. The sonar pings again, the echo returning from a depth that still feels unimaginably far below. You are entering the Hadal zone, named for the god of the underworld, where the trenches of the earth begin their final descent into the crust. The walls of the Mariana Trench are somewhere out there in the dark, steep slopes of ancient rock and fine, pale silt that have stood for eons in the silence. You imagine the sea cucumbers that crawl across those slopes, their bodies soft and malleable, vacuuming the sediment for organic fragments. They are the gardeners of the deep, slow and methodical, moving through a world where time has no meaning. The pressure outside is now over 8,000 pounds per square inch, a crushing force that your vessel holds back with a quiet, metallic determination. You lean your head against the cool interior of the sub, feeling the slight vibration of the motors as they keep you on a steady path downward. The surface world, with its frantic noise, its changing weather, and its bright, hot sun, feels like a dream you once had a long time ago. Down here, there is only the dark, the cold, and the steady, hypnotic pull of the deep. You watch a small, bioluminescent jellyfish drift into your light, its body flickering with a soft, pulsing rhythm of electric blue. It is a living light in the heart of the darkness, a tiny beacon of life in a world that seems built for silence. As it drifts away, leaving you alone in the black once more, you feel a sense of profound peace. You are a witness to the secret places of the earth, a traveler in a realm that few eyes have ever seen. The descent is steady, a slow motion fall into the deepest shadows of the planet. You are approaching the final stages of the journey, where the water will eventually give way to the floor of the Challenger Deep, but for now, you simply drift, a passenger in a silent, golden bubble, sinking deeper and deeper into the eternal night. The scale of the ocean above you is staggering, a vertical mountain of water that presses down with a gentle, relentless weight. You feel the sub tilt slightly as it encounters a pocket of denser, colder water, a subtle shift in the environment that tells you that you are nearing the most extreme depths. The light from your floodlight seems to be swallowed more quickly now, the darkness pressing in closer as if it were a living thing. You are mesmerized by the emptiness, by the sheer, overwhelming vastness of the abyss. Every foot you descend takes you further into the mysteries of the planet, into the places where the earth is still being formed and reformed in the crushing dark. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the soft, rhythmic sounds of your vessel, the heartbeat of your journey, and you feel a deep, quiet sense of wonder. The world below is waiting, a silent cathedral of water and stone, and you are almost there, drifting slowly toward the very bottom of the world, where the deepest secrets of the Mariana Trench remain hidden in the dark, waiting to be whispered to those who dare to descend into the silence of the Great Pacific. The depth gauge continues its steady, rhythmic climb as you drift deeper into the Hadal zone, approaching a threshold that few living things have ever crossed. You are now descending beyond 30,000 feet, a distance so vast that if you were to turn Mount Everest upside down in this very spot, its jagged peak would still be miles above your head, lost in the dark and cold. The water outside has become a thick, heavy presence, a mountain of liquid weight that presses against the titanium hull with a force of over 16,000 pounds per square inch. You feel a profound sense of stillness as the sub slows its descent, the thrusters firing in soft, muffled bursts that vibrate through the floor like a gentle hum. Out of the eternal blackness, a pale, ghostly horizon begins to emerge in the reach of your floodlights. It is the floor of the Challenger Deep, the very bottom of the world. As you get closer, you see a fine, creamy sediment composed of the skeletal remains of plankton and mineral dust that has drifted down through the water column for millions of years. The arrival is slow and ethereal, like landing on a distant moon made of soft, white velvet. As the sub nears the bottom, the downward wash from the propellers stirs up a delicate, swirling cloud of silt that rises like smoke in the golden beams of your lights. You watch as the particles dance and drift in the slow-moving currents, eventually settling back into the ancient quiet. You are here, at the lowest point of the Earth's crust, a place of total darkness and absolute peace. You think of the two men who sat in this same silence in January of 1960, Jacques Picard and Don Walsh. Their journey took nearly 5 hours of steady falling through the dark, trapped inside a steel sphere that felt smaller with every passing mile. They sat in near total silence, listening to the metallic groans of the Trieste as it adjusted to the mounting pressure, knowing that they were the first human beings to ever lay eyes on this alien landscape. When they finally touched down, they saw a flat, buff-colored floor and a single, flat fish that seemed to be watching them from the mud, a discovery that changed our understanding of life forever. You also think of James Cameron, decades later, descending alone in his vertical torpedo of a submarine, becoming the first person to see this world in high definition. You are following in the wake of giants, yet the trench remains unchanged, indifferent to the passage of human time. You look out into the gloom beyond the lights, where the trench floor stretches out into a vast, undulating plain of sediment and shadow. It is not a dead world, but one teeming with a strange, quiet life that has adapted to the most extreme conditions on the planet. Small, pale amphipods, looking like translucent white shrimp, scurry across the silt, their delicate legs leaving tiny, intricate trails behind them like calligraphy written in the dust. You see a sea cucumber, its body almost transparent and ghostly, moving with a slowness that defies the very concept of time. These creatures do not need the sun, they survive on the nutrients that fall from above and the complex bacterial ecosystems that thrive in the chemical-rich sediments. Everything here moves in slow motion, as if the immense weight of the water has slowed the very pulse of existence. You feel the isolation pressing in, a comforting realization that you are separated from the surface by 7 miles of cold, dark ocean. The noise of the world above, the wind, the traffic, the voices of billions, is entirely absent. There is only the low, steady hum of your oxygen scrubbers and the occasional, haunting click of the sonar as it sends its pulses out into the void. You are a passenger in a bubble of light and warmth, a temporary visitor to a realm that belongs to the ancient deep. The pressure outside is so great that it would instantly solidify most oils, yet here you are, breathing easy and watching the small, rhythmic movements of life in the mud. You notice a cluster of xenophyophores, giant single-celled organisms that look like dark, crumpled sponges scattered across the white silt. They are among the largest individual cells in the world, absorbing minerals and nutrients directly from the water in a silent, patient process of growth. It is a world of miniatures and giants, of fragility and incredible strength. You lean closer to the viewport, mesmerized by the way the light catches the fine crystals of the sediment, making the floor of the trench shimmer like a field of fallen stars. You are now moving the sub forward, gliding just a few feet above the seabed. The movement is smooth and silent, a ghostly drift across a landscape that has seen no change for eons. You see a small, white snailfish dart away from the light, its body soft and scaleless, looking more like a piece of silk than a creature of the sea. It lives in a world where the pressure would be like having an elephant stand on your thumb, yet it swims with a fluid, effortless grace. You find yourself sinking deeper into your seat, your eyes heavy with the beauty of the abyss. The sense of peace here is overwhelming, a quietude that reaches deep into your soul. You are at the very heart of the mystery, the place where the Earth's crust is recycled back into the mantle, a gateway to the inner workings of the planet. As you explore the edges of the Challenger Deep, you feel a connection to the very origins of life, to the primordial soup where the first sparks of existence may have flickered in the dark. The sonar pings again, a soft and lonely sound that reminds you of the vast distance back to the air and the light. But for now, you don't want to go back. You want to stay here in the golden circle of your lights, watching the slow dance of the deep sea snow and the quiet movements of the creatures that call this darkness home. The floor of the trench is a cathedral of silence, a place where the weight of the ocean becomes a protective embrace. You are drifting further along the base of a small rise in the seabed, curious to see what lies just beyond the next shadow. The journey has reached its destination, yet the exploration is only just beginning, as you prepare to uncover the deeper secrets hidden in the folds of the trench floor, where the ancient history of the world is written in the silence of the mud. You feel the sub settle slightly as you hover, the silt beneath you swirling in slow, hypnotic patterns that mirror the quiet rhythm of your own breathing. The Mariana Trench is no longer a place of fear, but a sanctuary of the unknown, a dark and beautiful garden at the bottom of the sea. The submersible glides forward with a ghostly weightlessness, its powerful floodlights casting a warm, golden halo across the fine, silted plains of the Challenger Deep. As you hover just a few feet above the seabed, the movement is so smooth it feels more like drifting through a dream than traveling through the physical world. The sediment below is a pale, buff color, composed of the dust of ages, a soft graveyard of microscopic shells and mineral flecks that have spent centuries falling through the water column to reach this final resting place. You watch as the gentle wash from the thrusters causes the silt to rise in slow, elegant plumes, swirling like cold smoke in the beams of light before settling back into the eternal quiet. There is a profound sense of antiquity here, as if you have stepped into a time capsule that has remained untouched for millions of years. Every inch of this landscape is a testament to the patience of the ocean. You lean closer to the thick, cold acrylic of the viewport, noticing the intricate, delicate patterns etched into the mud. These are the footprints of the abyss, the winding trails left behind by translucent sea cucumbers and pale, leggy amphipods as they scavenge for the tiny fragments of organic life that filter down from the sunlit world miles above. These creatures move with a deliberate slowness, their bodies adapted to a rhythm of life that we, as creatures of the surface, can barely comprehend. In this world, energy is a precious currency, and every movement is calculated to conserve the spark of life against the crushing weight of the vertical wilderness. You are struck by the realization that despite the hydrostatic pressure of 8 tons per square inch, a force that would instantly collapse the strongest steel structures. The life here is incredibly soft and flexible. There are no hard shells or rigid bones. Instead, the organisms are composed of fluid and jelly-like tissues that exist in perfect equilibrium with the surrounding water. This is the secret of the deep. To survive, one must not resist the pressure, but become part of it. You see a cluster of xenophytophores, those giant, single-celled architects of the mud, looking like crumpled pieces of dark parchment scattered across the pale floor. They are quiet sentinels of the trench, absorbing minerals and nutrients directly from the water in a process so slow it seems almost geological. Beside them, a small, ghostly snailfish drifts by, its skin so thin you can see the faint outline of its internal organs. It is a masterpiece of biological engineering, surviving in a realm once thought to be a barren wasteland. You think of the early scientists who peered into these depths with primitive instruments, convinced that nothing could live in such a cold, lightless void, and how their shock must have felt when they discovered thriving, complex ecosystems in the heart of the darkness. The hum of the submersible is a comforting, low-frequency vibration, a reminder of the engineering marvel that keeps you safe and warm in a place that is naturally hostile to your kind. The instrument panels glow with a soft, amber light, casting long shadows across the small cabin and reflecting in the dark glass. Every few seconds, a sonar pulse clicks into the void, a rhythmic heartbeat that travels out into the blackness, searching for the hidden contours of the trench walls or the presence of a deep-sea ridge. The echoes return with a hollow, distant quality, reminding you of the staggering scale of the abyss. You are in a cathedral of water, 7 miles beneath the crashing waves and the shifting winds. The world above, the cities, the forests, and the sky, has faded into a distant, abstract memory. Here, time feels different, stretched thin and heavy, moving at the pace of the slow-descending marine snow. You realize that although humanity has mapped the surface of the Moon and the distant plains of Mars, we have seen only a tiny fraction of this hidden world. Vast sections of the Mariana Trench remain completely unmapped and unexplored, a silent frontier that guards its secrets with the weight of the ocean. There are species here that have no names, behaviors that have never been witnessed, and geological wonders that have never been seen by human eyes. You feel a sense of humble curiosity as you pilot the craft further into the gloom, moving toward a section of the trench floor where the sediment begins to give way to dark, jagged outcrops of volcanic rock. These are the scars of the Earth's tectonic movements, where the Pacific plate is slowly being swallowed by the Philippine plate in a slow-motion collision that shapes the very foundations of our planet. The darkness beyond your lights feels like an invitation, a mysterious expanse that stretches out for hundreds of miles. You see a group of tiny, bioluminescent organisms flickering in the distance, like a handful of blue stars scattered across the seabed. They blink in a slow, hypnotic sequence, perhaps communicating in a language of light that we are only beginning to translate. The water is so clear and still that it feels as though you are floating in a vacuum, suspended between the known and the unknown. You find yourself breathing in time with the soft whir of the life support system, your mind turning inward as you absorb the profound isolation of the journey. This is not the loneliness of being forgotten, but the peace of being the only witness to a hidden masterpiece. The trench floor is a garden of silence, a place where the pressures of the surface world cannot reach. As you continue your slow patrol across the silted plains, you see a strange, semi-transparent ribbon drifting in the current, its body rippling like silk as it searches for food. It is a creature of pure grace, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the earth, beauty exists in its most elemental form. The journey across the Challenger Deep is far from over, and with every foot of ground you cover, the mystery only deepens. You feel the sub tilt slightly as it follows the downward slope of a small depression in the seabed, leading you further into a region where the shadows seem even thicker and more ancient. There is a feeling that something else lies ahead, something hidden in the folds of the trench that has been waiting for eons to be discovered. You adjust the external cameras, zooming in on a series of unusual markings in the mud that don't quite look like the trails of any known animal. They are rhythmic and geometric, disappearing into the darkness where the light fails to reach. You follow them with a quiet, steady focus, sinking deeper into the meditative rhythm of the exploration, as the submersible carries you further into the heart of the great, silent mystery of the deep Pacific. The submersible continues its slow, phantom-like glide across the silent expanse of the Challenger Deep, its golden beams of light cutting through a darkness that has remained undisturbed for millions of years. You watch as the mysterious, geometric markings in the sediment gradually fade behind you, replaced by a vast, undulating plain of pale silt that looks like a landscape of frozen moonlight. The water here is so still that every movement of the vessel feels like an intrusion into a sacred, ancient space. You lean back against the cool padding of your seat, noticing the tiny, glistening beads of condensation forming on the titanium walls near the joints, a quiet testament to the temperature difference between your warm, breathing sanctuary, and the near-freezing reality of the abyss just inches away. The mechanical vibrations of the craft have settled into a low-frequency hum that vibrates in your chest, a rhythmic reminder of the engineering keeping the crushing weight of the Pacific at bay. You feel as though you have slipped entirely out of the stream of human time, entering a realm where hours and minutes are replaced by the slow, tectonic pulse of the Earth itself. As you move further into these rarely visited coordinates, you reflect on how difficult it has been for humanity to even begin to understand this hidden world. For decades, much of our knowledge came from the echo of sonar pulses bounced off the seabed from high above, a process that felt like trying to map a dark forest by listening to the wind. During the Cold War, oceanographic research took on a new urgency as nations sought to understand the deep-sea currents and the strange topography of the ocean floor for strategic reasons, yet even then, the Mariana Trench remained largely a silhouette of mystery. We have sent unmanned probes with cameras that captured fleeting glimpses of life before the pressure or the cold claimed them, leaving us with grainy images of creatures that looked more like hallucinations than biological reality. Even with today's advanced satellite mapping and deep-diving robotics, over 95% of the world's trenches remain unmapped in any real detail, leaving vast stretches of the Challenger Deep as a final, quiet frontier on our own planet. You watch a long, shimmering siphonophore drift into the light, its body a delicate chain of specialized organisms that look like a string of glowing pearls floating in a void. It moves with a rhythmic, liquid grace, its bioluminescence pulsing with a soft, amber light that mirrors the glow of your instrument panels. It is a creature of pure elegance, perfectly suited to a world where there are no walls and no ceilings, only the infinite blue-black water. Nearby, a group of deep-sea worms, with translucent bodies and feathery, iridescent appendages, dance in the silt stirred up by your passage, their movements as delicate as falling silk. You are struck by the thought that many of the species here may have only been seen once by human eyes, appearing for a heartbeat before vanishing back into the shadows of history. There have been times when deep-sea microphones, anchored miles below the surface, have recorded strange, low-frequency sounds, the bloop or the Julia, that echoed through the Pacific for hundreds of miles. While many were later attributed to icequakes or tectonic shifts, the memory of those sounds adds a layer of quiet wonder to the darkness outside. You listen to the sonar clicks of your own vessel, hearing them fade into the distance as they travel through the dense, heavy water, and you realize that you are moving through a record of the Earth's ancient past. Beneath the layers of soft sediment lie the remnants of massive underwater landslides and the scars of tectonic plates that have been grinding against one another for eons. The Mariana Trench was formed by the slow, inexorable descent of the Pacific Plate beneath the Philippine Plate, a process that continues even now, a few millimeters at a time. You can almost feel the immense power of these geological forces, the quiet energy of a planet that is constantly being recycled and reborn in the dark. The trench floor is not just a destination, it is a gateway to the inner workings of the world. You see a dark, jagged formation of volcanic rock rising out of the silt ahead, its surface coated in a fine dusting of mineral deposits that sparkle like diamonds in your lights. These are the basaltic bones of the crust, exposed by the movement of the earth and the scouring of deep-sea currents. As you approach the rock, you notice a strange, shimmering quality to the water nearby, a subtle distortion that looks like heat haze on a summer road. It is a sign of geothermal activity, a hint that the interior of the earth is reaching out to touch the cold water of the abyss. You feel a sense of profound awe at the thought of volcanic vents and hidden heat sources existing in a place of such absolute cold. The silence of the sub is absolute now, a thick and comforting blanket that allows you to drift deeper into a meditative state. You are a solitary witness to the slow-motion drama of the deep, a traveler in a land of ghosts and giants. The surface world, with its frantic noise and its bright, hot sun, feels like a dream you once had in another life. Down here, there is only the descent, the exploration, and the quiet rhythm of the trench. You watch as a pale, blind crustacean crawls slowly across the volcanic rock, its long antennae waving in the dark to sense the vibrations of the water. It is a world of touch and sound and light made by living things, a place where the rules of the surface no longer apply. You adjust the controls, bringing the submersible closer to the rocky outcrop, curious to see what secrets are hidden in the crevices and shadows of the ancient stone. The journey across the floor of the Challenger Deep is taking you toward the deeper geological mysteries of the trench, toward the places where the Earth's heat meets the ocean's cold in a silent, eternal embrace. You feel the sub settle into a steady, patient pace, as you prepare to explore the volcanic heart of the abyss, where the forces that shape our world are still very much alive, hidden beneath miles of water and the heavy, beautiful weight of the dark Pacific. The shadows ahead seem to pulse with a hidden energy, drawing you further into the unknown, as the ancient history of the planet whispers to you from the depths of the silt and the silence of the stone. The submersible continues its silent patrol near the jagged, dark volcanic outcrops that rise like ancient monuments from the silted floor of the Challenger Deep, its golden beams of light revealing a world shaped by the slow, relentless power of the Earth's interior. You watch as the smooth plains of sediment give way to a more rugged terrain, where basaltic ridges and deep fissures speak of a geological drama that has been unfolding for over 100 million years. The water here feels even more still, a heavy and cold silence that seems to press against the very edges of your consciousness. You lean back into the soft, familiar warmth of your seat, watching the tiny dust motes of marine snow drift past the thick acrylic viewport, their movements so slow and peaceful that they seem to be suspended in time. The mechanical hum of the craft is a steady, reassuring pulse, a rhythmic song that blends with the occasional, musical ping of the sonar as it measures the distance to the rising rock walls. You are hovering at the threshold of a geological cathedral, a place where the Pacific Plate is being slowly, inexorably pulled down into the mantle of the planet. This process of subduction is a movement of unimaginable slowness, a tectonic dance where the crust of the Earth is recycled at a rate of only a few inches every year, yet the scale of the power involved is enough to swallow mountains and create the deepest scars on the surface of the world. You feel a profound sense of awe as you gaze at the dark stone, realizing that these rocks were formed long before humans walked the earth, and they will likely remain here, cold and silent, long after we are gone. As you navigate the submersible closer to a deep, narrow fissure in the seabed, you notice a subtle shimmering in the water, a delicate distortion of light that looks like a liquid veil dancing in the dark. It is a sign of geothermal activity, a faint breath of heat escaping from the core of the planet and meeting the near-freezing water of the abyss. In the reach of your lights, you see thin, milky clouds of minerals drifting upward from the cracks, creating an ethereal, underwater fog that swirls around the base of the volcanic ridges. These are the life-giving breaths of the deep, where chemical energy replaces the sun's light as the foundation of existence. You see clusters of tiny microbial colonies clinging to the rock, their pale, translucent forms thriving on the hydrogen and sulfur bubbling up from the earth. Nearby, a group of delicate tube worms, their bodies long and flexible like white ribbons, sway gently in the warmth of the vents, their crimson tips sensing the chemical flow of the water. It is a world that exists entirely independent of the surface, a hidden garden of chemistry and heat that has evolved in total isolation for eons. You think about the modern researchers who guide robotic submarines and remotely operated vehicles into these depths, sitting in control rooms miles above on the surface, watching through digital eyes as they try to unlock the secrets of this extreme environment. Even the strongest machines, built of titanium and synthetic foam, can struggle beneath the crushing pressure here, their seals and circuits tested to the very limit by the weight of the water and the biting chill. You feel a deep connection to those explorers, yet your own journey feels more intimate, a quiet and personal witness to the majesty of the abyss. The isolation of the submersible is a comforting embrace, a feeling of being completely separated from the noise and chaos of the world above. Up there, the sun rises and sets, the weather shifts, and time moves with a frantic energy, but down here, there is only the eternal dark and the slow, heavy rhythm of the ocean. You watch a small, pale crab scurry across a field of volcanic glass, its movements certain and precise in a world without light. It is a reminder that life, in all its forms, is incredibly resilient, finding a home in the most unlikely and beautiful places. The sonar continues to click, its sound disappearing into the vastness of the trench like a stone dropped into a deep well. You are drifting further along the volcanic ridge now, moving toward a region where the geothermal activity seems more pronounced, and the shadows of the rocks grow longer and more mysterious. The feeling of being in a truly unknown place is overwhelming, a sense of wonder that fills the small cabin and settles in your chest like a warm light. You are exploring one of the final frontiers of the Earth, a place where the darkness has preserved the ancient history of the planet in a state of perfect stillness. You see a series of unusual mineral chimneys rising from the seabed ahead, their surfaces covered in a tapestry of life that glows with a faint, internal light. The air inside the craft is dry and still, a sharp contrast to the cold, mineral-rich water just inches away, and you find yourself sinking deeper into a state of meditative calm. The journey is no longer about reaching a destination, but about the experience of the descent itself, the slow and peaceful observation of a world that belongs to the deep. You watch as a translucent jellyfish, its body pulsing with a rhythmic, hypnotic grace, drifts through the mineral clouds, its long tentacles trailing like silk threads in the dark. It is a creature of pure light and water, a living phantom in the heart of the trench. You adjust the thrusters, feeling the sub tilt slightly as it follows the curve of the underwater canyon. The submersible drifts with a heavy, rhythmic grace past the towering mineral chimneys that rise like cathedral spires from the dark volcanic floor, its lights catching the shimmering veil of heat that rises from the cracks in the Earth's crust. You are hovering in a realm of liquid alchemy, where the near-freezing water of the abyss meets the fiery breath of the interior in a silent, swirling dance of gold and gray. The mineral-rich clouds drift upward in slow, lazy plumes, looking like charcoal ink dropped into a glass of midnight blue water, creating a landscape of shadow and light that feels more like the surface of a distant, cooling planet than the bottom of our own. You lean your forehead against the cool interior of the viewport, watching the tiny crystals of pyrite and sulfur sparkle like dust in the sun as they catch your floodlights, suspended in a world where the sun has never been seen. The mechanical hum of the vessel is a soft, comforting vibration that resonates through your bones, a steady reminder of the technology that allows you to witness this ancient, hidden power. Every few seconds, the sonar sends out a quiet, melodic click, the sound traveling through the dense, heavy water and echoing off the jagged basalt walls before being swallowed by the immense volume of the trench. You feel a sense of profound stillness, as if you are watching the very heartbeat of the planet, a slow and steady pulse that has been beating since the dawn of time. Here, around these hydrothermal vents, life does not depend on the golden rays of a star but on the chemical energy boiling up from the mantle. This is the world of chemosynthesis, a dreamy and mysterious process where microbes turn toxic sulfur and heat into the building blocks of existence. You see clusters of pale, ghost-like crabs scurrying over the mineral deposits, their white shells reflecting the dim glow of your instrument panels as they scavenge in the dark. Beside them, long, elegant tube worms sway in the gentle currents, their bodies anchored to the stone while their crimson plumes filter the chemical soup of the water. They look like a forest of underwater lilies, delicate and serene in a place of unimaginable pressure. You think of how these ecosystems are entire worlds unto themselves, isolated by miles of open water and darkness, harboring species that exist nowhere else on the planet. Some of these organisms may be the descendants of the very first life forms to ever appear on Earth, thriving in conditions that mirror the primordial oceans of 4 billion years ago. You feel as though you are looking back through the lens of time, watching the same ancient forces that shaped the beginning of biological history. The air inside your cabin is quiet and still, a private sanctuary where you can hear the soft, rhythmic sound of your own breathing as it mingles with the faint whir of the life support systems. Tiny beads of condensation continue to trace slow, shimmering paths down the metallic walls, a reminder of the biting cold that waits just on the other side of the titanium shell. You think about the scientists who design fragile robotic probes to explore these vents, knowing that even the most advanced cameras can be blinded by the mineral clouds or crushed by the weight of the water. To collect a single sample of this water or a small piece of this volcanic rock requires a precision that borders on the miraculous, yet you are here, drifting through it with a quiet and effortless grace. The feeling of isolation is not a burden but a gift, a chance to exist in a space where the noise of modern life cannot reach. Up there, in the world of light, people are caught in the rush of the hours, but down here, time is measured in the slow accumulation of sediment and the cooling of magma. You watch a swarm of tiny deep-sea shrimp dancing near the heat of a vent, their bodies translucent and shimmering like sparks of fire in the dark. They move with a weightless, hypnotic energy, oblivious to the immense pressure that would flatten a cathedral. You find yourself sinking deeper into the calm of the journey, your mind following the slow, swirling patterns of the mineral plumes as they disappear into the blackness above. The hydrothermal region is a place of incredible energy, yet it feels peaceful, a warm hearth in the center of a cold and endless night. You adjust the controls, feeling the sub tilt slightly as you begin to pull away from the warmth of the vents, moving back into the open, unexplored reaches of the trench floor. The light from the chimneys fades behind you, becoming a series of dim, amber flickers in the distance before finally being swallowed by the absolute dark. You are entering a part of the Mariana Trench that has seen even fewer visitors than the Challenger Deep itself, a silent stretch of the abyss where the maps are blank and the secrets are even more profound. The water here is incredibly clear, a dark vacuum that seems to stretch on forever in every direction. You feel the sub settle into a steady, patient glide, its lights carving a lonely path through a void that has never known a name. The transition from the heat of the vents to the cold of the open floor is a soft, seamless change, a return to the quietest parts of the world. You are a passenger in a vessel of light, moving through a landscape of ancient silt and hidden stone, where the only sound is the heartbeat of your own exploration. The submersible glides with a quiet, spectral elegance away from the flickering embers of the hydrothermal vents, leaving the warmth of the Earth's inner hearth for the vast, silent plains of the outer trench. As the last amber glow of the mineral chimneys dissolves into the blackness behind you, the darkness outside the viewport becomes absolute, a velvet void that feels as though it has never known the touch of a single photon. You are now entering a territory where maps are merely guesses, a silent stretch of the abyss that has been seen by fewer eyes than the surface of the lunar far side. The water here is incredibly clear and cold, a dark vacuum that seems to hold the weight of the entire planet in its steady, icy grip. You watch as the external floodlights carve a lonely, golden tunnel through the gloom, revealing a seabed that is a masterpiece of stillness. The fine, pale silt ripples in the wake of your passage, rising in slow, hypnotic clouds that look like underwater snowfall caught in a gentle breeze. You lean back into the soft, secure padding of your pilot's chair, watching the dim reflections of the control panel dance across the thick glass, a constellation of small, amber lights that are your only companions in this immense emptiness. The mechanical hum of the electrical systems is a low, rhythmic murmur, a soothing vibration that seems to vibrate in tune with your own heartbeat. You feel a profound sense of peace in this isolation, a quiet realization that you are drifting through a world that remains one of the final, hidden frontiers of our planet. It is a humbling thought to realize that despite all our satellites and high-altitude sensors, we have mapped the craters of Mars with more precision than we have mapped these deep, liquid valleys. Each mile of the trench is a volume of a book that has never been opened, containing species and secrets that have evolved in total solitude for millions of years. You think of the modern researchers on the surface, hunched over monitors in the soft glow of research vessels, guiding robotic probes with delicate joysticks through this crushing dark. They struggle against the physical limits of the world, where signals move slowly and the pressure can turn a small mistake into a catastrophic failure. Yet, despite the difficulty, they are rewarded with glimpses of life that defy every biological rule we know. You watch as a transparent predator, a medusa with a body like spun glass and trailing tentacles as thin as spider silk, drifts through your light. It moves with a rhythmic, pulsing motion that is so slow it is almost meditative, a ghost of the deep searching for a meal in the eternal night. Further out, beyond the edge of the light, you see a series of faint, rhythmic flashes, bioluminescent signals sent from one unseen creature to another, a language of light spoken in the silence of the abyss. These creatures are not frightening, they are delicate and beautiful, survivors of a realm where pressure is a constant embrace and light is a precious, fleeting gift. You see a giant xenophyophore resting in the sediment, its single-celled body shaped like a delicate, dark fan, filtering the quiet currents for nutrients. It has been sitting here, perhaps, for decades, a witness to the slow passage of geological time. You feel your own breath slowing to match the rhythm of the sub, your mind drifting into a state of deep, calm reflection. The surface world, with its noisy cities, its changing tides, and its bright, hot sun, now feels like a dream you once had in another life, a distant memory that has no place in this cathedral of water and stone. Down here, time is not measured by the sun, but by the slow settling of marine snow and the steady pulse of the sonar. The clicks of the sonar travel out into the dark and return with news of vast, open spaces, a reminder of the staggering scale of the world you are exploring. You find yourself thinking about humanity's relationship with this ocean, a vast and ancient cradle that covers most of our world yet remains mostly a mystery to us. We are only now beginning to understand the fragility and the strength of these deep ecosystems, and how they are connected to the health of the entire planet. You are a solitary witness to this hidden majesty, a traveler in a land that has known only darkness since the world was young. The sub tilts slightly as it begins to follow a new contour in the seabed, a gentle slope that leads toward a section of the trench where the sonar begins to pick up unusual, irregular shapes. There is a sense of quiet anticipation in the cabin, a feeling that the abyss is preparing to reveal something new. You adjust the external cameras, their motors whirring with a soft, precise sound that is barely audible over the low hum of the vessel. You notice that the silt here is disturbed, marked by strange, sweeping patterns that don't match the trails of the sea cucumbers or the amphipods you have seen before. The water itself seems to hold a new kind of energy, a subtle shift in the current that suggests a different kind of environment lies just ahead. Looking into the gloom at the very edge of your lights, you catch a fleeting glimpse of a movement, a large, fluid shadow that ripples with an internal, iridescent glow before disappearing back into the blackness. It was not a fish or a squid, but something more amorphous, a creature of light and shadow that seemed to vanish the moment it was seen. You feel a thrill of quiet wonder, a deep curiosity that pulls you further into the unknown. The submersible continues its steady, rhythmic glide into the deep, following the subtle, liquid disturbances that ripple through the velvet darkness like a soft breath across a still pond. You are moving through a space where the shadows themselves seem to hold a quiet intention, a part of the trench where the emptiness is no longer empty, but filled with the presence of something vast and slow. The external lights of the craft push against the gloom, but even their powerful golden beams feel small and fragile against the overwhelming scale of the abyss. Out at the very periphery of your vision, you catch another fleeting glimpse of motion, a slow, undulating shift in the water that causes the marine snow to swirl in elegant, hypnotic spirals. It is not the frantic movement of a predator, but something much more patient, a rhythmic pulse that feels as old as the trench itself. You lean closer to the cold glass, your eyes adjusting to the layers of blackness, watching for the next sign of life in this silent, vertical wilderness. The atmosphere inside the cabin remains calm and deeply peaceful, the only sound being the low, steady whir of the life support systems and the occasional, rhythmic click of the sensors as they translate the immense pressure into data. You feel a sense of profound wonder, a quiet curiosity that keeps you anchored in the present moment as you drift further away from the known world. It is a humbling reality that our finest deep-sea cameras and most advanced remotely operated vehicles can only capture tiny, fragmented snapshots of this realm, often missing the larger patterns of life that exist just beyond the reach of our artificial glow. We are like children with a single candle in a vast, dark cathedral, seeing only the stones directly in front of us while the grand architecture of the deep remains hidden in the rafters. You watch as a series of faint, bioluminescent patterns begin to materialize in the distance, soft pulses of light that seem to communicate in a slow, ethereal code. They are not sharp flashes, but gentle glows of sapphire and emerald that bloom and fade like distant stars through a thick fog. These lights move with a delicate, drifting motion, suggesting organisms that are nearly as fluid as the water they inhabit. You wonder if you are witnessing a communal display, a gathering of creatures that have evolved to use light not just for hunting, but for a form of deep-sea intelligence that humanity is only beginning to imagine. In a world defined by total darkness and crushing weight, life has found ways to adapt that challenge our very definitions of biology. Perhaps here, in the silence and the cold, intelligence is measured by patience and the ability to exist in perfect harmony with the pressure. You feel the sub settle deeper into the current, a faint vibration through the floor telling you that the engines are working steadily to maintain your position in this mysterious flow. The condensation on the interior walls has formed small, glittering rivers that catch the dim amber light of the control panels, a reminder of the biting chill of the Pacific pressing against your titanium shell. You are a solitary observer, a passenger in a vessel of light drifting through an infinite, weightless void. The surface world, with all its noise and frantic movement, has become an impossibility, a distant dream of a place that no longer feels real. Down here, time has no meaning, there is only the descent and the slow, rhythmic pulse of the deep. You watch as the sediment on the seafloor below begins to shift in a more pronounced way, with long, sweeping trails being carved into the silt by something unseen. It is as if a giant, invisible brush is moving across the white dust of the abyss, creating patterns that suggest a deliberate, slow-motion grace. You follow these trails with a steady, quiet focus, the submersible's lights illuminating the fine crystalline structures of the mud as they are tossed into the water. Every mile of this journey takes you deeper into the mystery of how life sustains itself in the harshest conditions imaginable. You think about the millions of years of evolution that have shaped these hidden ecosystems, creating forms of life that are as beautiful as they are alien. There is a sense of peace in knowing that so much of our planet remains a secret, protected by the very elements that make it so difficult for us to reach. The sonar pings again, the sound traveling out into the dark and returning with a complex, echoing signature that suggests a large, soft-bodied structure is hovering just ahead. You adjust the thrusters, feeling the craft tilt slightly as it maneuvers closer to the source of the movement. The bioluminescent pulses in the distance are becoming more frequent now, creating a soft, flickering canopy of light that seems to stretch for hundreds of yards across the trench floor. It is a mesmerizing sight, a living galaxy in the heart of the ocean, pulsing with a rhythm that feels like a slow, deep breath. You find yourself sinking deeper into the calm of the experience, your mind following the ebb and flow of the lights as they dance in the dark. The sense of isolation is no longer lonely, it is a profound connection to the elemental forces of the earth. You are witnessing the unseen, the quiet drama of the deep that plays out every day in the shadows of the Mariana. As the submersible moves forward, the movement in the water becomes slightly clearer, a vast, shimmering curtain of translucent tissue that seems to hang in the water column like a ghostly veil. The submersible glides forward with a quiet, patient grace, its golden beams of light pushing into the heavy velvet of the abyss as you draw closer to the source of that rhythmic, elusive movement. The vast, shimmering curtain of translucent tissue you glimpsed moments ago seems to hang in the water like a liquid ghost, its edges pulsing with a faint, internal iridescence that defies easy categorization. As you navigate the craft with a steady hand, the movement becomes more a texture of the water than a distinct shape, a subtle shifting of shadows that suggests a biological presence of immense scale and delicate complexity. You are moving through a space where the rules of perception are rewritten by the weight of the miles above. At these extreme depths, the way light travels is different, it does not scatter as it does in the air, but is swallowed by the density of the cold Pacific, making distance nearly impossible to judge. A shape that looks 10 feet away might be 30, and what appears to be a solid object may be nothing more than a trick of the shadows and the distortion of the thick acrylic viewport. You lean forward, your breath soft and slow, watching as the external floodlights catch a new detail, a series of delicate, hair-like filaments that trail from the main body of the organism, glowing with a soft, pulsing violet light. These filaments drift in the slow-moving currents like silk threads, sensing the vibrations of your vessel long before the light ever reaches them. Inside the cabin, the environment is a contrast of warmth and safety against the infinite, crushing unknown outside. The control panel flickers with a gentle, amber glow, casting long, familiar shadows across the interior walls where tiny beads of condensation continue their slow, silent journey toward the floor. You can hear the faint, rhythmic hum of the oxygen scrubbers and the distant, melodic ping of the sonar, a sound that feels like a heartbeat in the dark. It is a comforting, mechanical lullaby that keeps you grounded while your mind wanders into the mysteries beyond the glass. You think about how often deep-sea researchers find themselves in this exact position, staring at ambiguous data and grainy video feeds, trying to interpret a world that was never meant for human eyes. Many of the greatest discoveries in the history of oceanography began just like this, as a blurry shape on a monitor or a strange spike in a sonar reading that took years of patient study to fully understand. The Mariana Trench does not give up its secrets easily. It requires a kind of meditative patience, a willingness to sit in the dark and wait for the abyss to speak. You are witnessing the possibility of a previously unknown form of life, perhaps a colonial organism or a massive, deep-sea jelly that has never been documented by science. It doesn't feel like a discovery in the traditional sense. It feels like an initiation into a secret that the Earth has kept for millions of years. The motion of the creature is so fluid and slow that it seems to be part of the water itself, a living extension of the trench's eternal night. You adjust the thrusters, feeling a faint vibration through the floor of the sub as you maneuver for a better angle, careful not to disturb the delicate equilibrium of the water. The sediment on the seabed below is now marked by deep, rhythmic depressions that mirror the pulsing of the light above, suggesting that this presence has been here for a very long time, a permanent resident of this specific fold in the earth. You feel a sense of profound humble curiosity, a realization that even with our most advanced technology, we are only seeing a tiny fraction of the life that thrives in the deepest parts of our world. Each descent we make into the trench reveals more questions than answers, reminding us that the ocean is not just a body of water, but a vast, living archive of evolution and mystery. You watch as the bioluminescent patterns on the organism begin to shift, changing from a steady violet glow to a series of rapid, rhythmic flashes of pale blue that move along the length of its translucent form like a signal passing through a nerve. It is a mesmerizing display of deep-sea communication, a language of light that we are only beginning to acknowledge. The shadows around the vessel seem to lean in closer, and you realize that there are more of these shapes drifting just beyond the reach of the floodlights, an entire ecosystem of light and movement that exists in a state of perfect, silent harmony. The sense of isolation is no longer a physical weight, but a psychological liberation, a feeling of being completely outside the normal boundaries of human experience. You are a passenger in a silent, golden bubble, floating through a cathedral of water where time is measured by the slow pulse of a jelly's heart. As the submersible continues its slow, observational orbit, the shape of the organism begins to resolve into something more defined, yet still utterly alien. You see a central core of darker, more solid tissue from which the translucent veils extend, a complex network of biological structures that shimmer with a faint, metallic luster in the light. It is beautiful and strange, a masterpiece of adaptation that has evolved to thrive in a world of absolute pressure and eternal night. You find yourself sinking deeper into the calm of the moment, your eyes fixed on the unfolding drama of the deep, as the sub carries you closer to the heart of this hidden encounter. The submersible hovers in a state of perfect, weightless equilibrium, its thrusters emitting only the faintest, most rhythmic whispers as you keep the vessel positioned before the unfolding mystery. The central mass of the presence you are observing is now closer, yet it remains an enigma of light and shadow, a complex architecture of translucent membranes and glowing nodes that seem to breathe with a slow, coordinated pulse. You watch through the thick acrylic as the golden beams of your floodlights graze the edges of this structure, revealing a surface that is not quite solid but not entirely fluid either, shimmering with an internal, metallic luster that shifts from a deep amethyst to a pale, ghostly silver. The way the light interacts with this presence is mesmerizing. The beams seem to be absorbed and then re-emitted as soft, rhythmic flashes that travel along the delicate filaments like a signal passing through a vast, underwater nervous system. You lean back into the warm, secure padding of your seat, feeling the low-frequency hum of the electrical systems vibrating gently in your chest, a steady reminder of the engineering sanctuary that holds the crushing weight of the Pacific at bay. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere is one of absolute calm, the air dry and still, while the control panels cast a soft, amber glow that reflects in the dark glass of the viewport. You are suspended in a vast, quiet void where the normal rules of distance and scale have simply ceased to exist. At these extreme depths, the density of the water and the absence of any natural light create a world of soft, uncertain realities where a movement 10 feet away can feel like a mile, and a tiny organism can appear as a giant through the distortion of the deep. You find yourself matching your breathing to the slow, steady rhythm of the life support systems, your mind drifting into a meditative state as you observe the subtle, coordinated motion of the light outside. It is a quiet, haunting beauty that suggests a hidden order, a natural behavior that has evolved over millions of years in the total isolation of the trench. You think about how often deep-sea researchers encounter these moments of profound ambiguity, where the data they collect is a fragmented puzzle of brief flashes and partial sonar echoes. Many of the most significant discoveries in the history of the Mariana Trench began just like this, as a series of unclassifiable signals that required years of patient study and multiple descents to finally understand. There is no rush here, no urgency to define or name what you are seeing, there is only the peaceful act of witnessing. The present seems to react to the gentle hum of your submersible, not with flight, but with a slow, undulating shift that brings a new section of its structure into the light. You notice that the movement is not chaotic, but follows a geometric pattern, a rhythmic expansion and contraction that stirs the fine silt of the seabed into soft, spiraling clouds. The sediment rises and falls in the golden beams like stardust, creating a bridge between the ancient floor of the trench and the living mystery hovering above it. You feel a sense of humble curiosity, a realization that even with the most advanced technology humanity can create, we are still only perceiving tiny, scattered fragments of the world that exists beneath the waves. The trench represents a true boundary between the known and the unknown, a place where the darkness has preserved secrets that are older than the mountains above. You are a solitary traveler at the edge of the world, watching as the abyss reveals its soul in a language of light and shadow. The sonar pings again, the sound traveling out into the blackness and returning with a clarity that suggests the structure is becoming more defined, its edges more structured and intentional. You see a series of glowing, crystalline nodes arranged in a spiraling formation, each one pulsing with a soft, warm light that seems to mirror the rhythmic clicking of your sensors. It is as if the creature, or the formation, is speaking back to the vessel in a dialect of energy and frequency. You adjust the external cameras, their motors whirring with a soft, precise sound that feels loud in the absolute silence of the cabin, and you zoom in on a central point where the light is most intense. There, the translucent veils seem to converge into a dense, shimmering core that pulses with a deep, resonant gold. The isolation of the submersible is no longer a physical distance from the surface, but a psychological state of being, a feeling of being completely immersed in the timeless reality of the deep ocean. You are no longer an intruder, but a part of the quiet drama of the abyss, a passenger on a journey that has no end and no beginning. The shadows around the vessel seem to hold their breath as you drift closer, the gap between the known and the mystery narrowing with every inch of your slow-motion glide. You find yourself sinking deeper into the calm of the experience, your eyes fixed on the shifting patterns of the light as they become more intricate and more deliberate. The presence is now almost within reach of the submersible's mechanical arm, a vast and silent neighbor in the heart of the deepest night on Earth. You feel a profound sense of peace, a quiet reverence for the endurance of life and the majesty of the unknown. The mysteries of the Mariana Trench are unfolding with a patient, ancient grace, and you are ready to follow wherever the light leads. The submersible hangs in the water with a heavy, liquid stillness, its thrusters stilled to a mere whisper as you hold your position in the heart of this vast, silent void. Beyond the thick, protective shell of the viewport, the golden beams of the floodlights continue to illuminate only a fraction of the darkness, carving a narrow corridor of visibility through the ancient, heavy Pacific. You are suspended in a realm where the ocean hides its secrets in infinite layers, revealing them only in fleeting glimpses and partial shadows that challenge the very nature of your perception. The massive, translucent structure you have been observing is now moving with a more pronounced coordination, a series of slow, rhythmic contractions that ripple through its delicate membranes like a slow-motion pulse. The light it emits has shifted into a deeper, more resonant indigo, synchronized with a series of soft, amber flashes that travel in perfect geometric sequences along its spiraling nodes. It is a mesmerizing sight, a display of order and rhythm in a world where you expected only chaos and cold. Inside the small, warm sanctuary of the cabin, the atmosphere remains one of profound peace, the only sound being the steady, rhythmic hum of the life support systems and the faint, musical click of the internal sensors. The control panels cast a soft, familiar glow against your skin, reflecting in the dark glass and creating a bridge between your contained, technological world and the infinite, fluid reality outside. You feel your own breath slowing to match the pulse of the machinery, your mind drifting into a state of deep, meditative calm as you watch the subtle interactions between the presence and the surrounding environment. The movement of the light seems to stir the fine, pale sediment of the seabed, causing it to rise in delicate, intentional patterns that mirror the swirling of the water currents. It is as if the presence is communicating not just with light, but with the very matter of the trench floor, creating a silent dialogue of motion and shadow. You reflect on the nature of deep-sea exploration, how our understanding of this world is built upon a foundation of incomplete observations and ambiguous signals. So many of the greatest discoveries in these extreme environments began as nothing more than a faint spike on a sonar screen, a blurry flash on a camera, or a series of unexplainable pulses that defied immediate classification. Science in the abyss is a slow and patient process, a gradual piecing together of a puzzle where most of the pieces remain hidden in the dark. You are reminded that as humans, we can only perceive a small, limited fraction of reality, especially here, where the pressure and the silence have preserved forms of existence that are entirely alien to our experience. Much of what truly exists in the Mariana Trench remains hidden simply because it cannot be easily observed by our lights or measured by our instruments. You are a solitary witness to a mystery that has no name, a traveler at the edge of the known world where reality itself feels soft and uncertain. The sonar pings again, the echo returning with a clarity that suggests the presence is now almost surrounding the vessel, a vast and gentle enclosure of light and motion. The bioluminescent pulses have become more deliberate, moving in a cascading wave that flows from the central core toward the outer edges of the translucent veils. It is a beautiful, haunting rhythm that suggests a purpose far beyond our understanding, a natural behavior that has played out in this silent cathedral for eons. You feel the sub settle into a steady, patient glide as you follow the curve of the light, the gap between your vessel and the mystery closing with every passing second. The shadows around you seem to hum with a quiet energy, a feeling of being completely immersed in the timeless reality of the deep ocean. You are no longer just an observer, you are part of the quiet drama of the abyss, a passenger on a journey that leads further into the heart of the great Pacific night. The structure outside begins to rotate with a slow, majestic grace, revealing new layers of complexity, intricate, glowing networks that look like the veins of a leaf or the map of a distant city. The light reflects off the interior walls of the submersible, filling your sanctuary with a soft, pulsing violet that feels warm and comforting. You sink deeper into your seat, eyes fixed on the unfolding patterns, waiting for the abyss to reveal the next chapter of its story. The movement is becoming more defined now, a coordinated expansion that seems to draw the very water toward it in a gentle, liquid embrace. You are drifting toward the center of this luminous world, where the true scale of the mystery is waiting to be discovered, hidden in the silence and the beautiful, heavy weight of the dark. The journey continues to pull you deeper, toward a threshold of understanding that feels as vast as the ocean itself, as you prepare to witness the hidden behavior of the trench's most secret life. You feel a sense of profound peace, a quiet reverence for the unknown as the patterns of light become more intricate and the motion more deliberate, beckoning you forward into the heart of the deepest night on earth. The stillness is absolute, yet it feels alive with the quiet pulse of a world that has never known the sun, a place where the darkness is not an absence, but a presence of its own. The submersible remains suspended in a state of perfect, crystalline stillness, a solitary bubble of light and warmth tucked into a corner of the world where the very concept of the surface has long since dissolved. Outside the thick, reinforced viewport, the golden beams of your floodlights continue to carve their narrow path through the heavy Pacific, yet they reveal only a fraction of the vast, shifting geometry that has begun to organize itself in the darkness. You are watching a slow-motion ballet of light and shadow, where the previously fragmented movements have now begun to coalesce into a more coherent, rhythmic system. The bioluminescent pulses that once seemed random are now traveling in long, cascading waves across the translucent membranes of the presence, a soft transition from deep violet to a warm, glowing amber that pulses in time with a slow, deep frequency you can almost feel in the soles of your feet. These patterns are no longer just flashes, they are flowing formations that appear to respond to one another, a silent conversation of light that ripples through the water with an ancient, practiced grace. You lean back into the soft, secure padding of your seat, your breath slow and steady, watching as the shadows outside shift and turn with a deliberate, quiet purpose. Inside the vessel, the atmosphere is a comforting sanctuary of technology and calm. You can hear the faint, low-frequency hum of the electrical systems working against the staggering weight of 7 miles of water, a sound that has become the steady heartbeat of your journey. The control panels glow with a soft, steady light, casting long, familiar shadows across the interior of the cabin, while the rhythmic stability of the life support systems provides a soothing, constant murmur. You feel a profound sense of safety within this small titanium cocoon, even as you are surrounded by an infinite, silent abyss where reality feels fluid and uncertain. Occasionally, you notice the tiny, rhythmic clicks of the sonar, but the echoes that return are complex and layered, suggesting that the structures outside are far larger and more intricate than your lights can ever hope to show. You reflect on the limitations of our own perception in these extreme depths, where even our most advanced cameras and robotic vehicles can only capture partial glimpses of a much larger whole. To observe the deep ocean is to engage in a quiet, ongoing process of interpretation, where meaning is carefully constructed from fragments of data and brief flashes of visual information. We are like travelers looking through a keyhole into a vast and darkened hall, seeing only the movement of feet and the flicker of distant candles, while the true scale of the gathering remains just out of reach. This realization is not frustrating, but rather a source of quiet wonder, a reminder that reality in the deepest parts of our planet exists beyond the simple reach of human sensory interpretation. There is a peace in knowing that some things are too vast to be fully seen, too ancient to be quickly understood. The unknown presence outside continues to evolve its patterns, the bioluminescent waves now stabilizing into a larger, coordinated system that seems to wrap around the submersible in a gentle, luminous embrace. The light reflects off the fine silt of the seabed, illuminating the delicate trails and rhythmic depressions in the mud that mirror the structure above, suggesting a permanent, stable interaction between the geology of the trench and this living architecture of light. You watch as a new layer of light begins to glow, a soft, pearlescent shimmer that traces the outer edges of the formation, making it look like a constellation of stars brought down to the floor of the sea. It is a world of rhythm and symmetry, where every pulse and every movement seems to follow a law that has been written over millions of years of total isolation. You find yourself sinking deeper into the calm of the experience, your mind following the slow, hypnotic flow of the patterns as they repeat and evolve with a patient, rhythmic grace. You are a witness to the hidden heartbeat of the earth, a traveler in a land where time is measured only by the slow accumulation of snow and the steady pulse of the abyss. The shadows around the vessel hold their position, creating a quiet cathedral of water and light that feels as though it could stretch on forever. You are no longer searching for answers or definitions, you are simply observing the beauty of a world that does not need to be named to be felt. The submersible drifts slightly in a deep-sea current, its lights grazing a section of the formation where the light is most intense, revealing a dense, shimmering core that looks like liquid gold suspended in a vacuum. The journey has reached a point of profound stillness, a moment where the known and the unknown are balanced in a delicate, beautiful equilibrium. As you watch, the coordinated system of light outside begins to settle into a steady, rhythmic hum of color, a visual harmony that suggests the presence is now fully aware of your stillness, accepting you into the quiet order of the deep. You settle further into your seat, eyes heavy and heart steady, as the patterns of the abyss become your only reality, a slow and immersive descent into the final mystery of the great Pacific night, where the deepest secrets of the world are waiting just beyond the edge of the light. The submersible remains suspended in a state of near-perfect, crystalline stillness, a solitary witness to a world that exists entirely outside the reach of the sun and the frantic rhythm of the surface. Beyond the thick, cold viewport, the golden beams of your floodlights illuminate a narrow, shimmering fragment of the abyss, while the vast, interconnected harmonies of light and motion you have been following have reached a state of breathtaking, stable coherence. It is no longer just a series of isolated movements, it is a vast, coordinated field of activity that seems to stretch far beyond the limits of your vision, a living system of rhythm and light that pulses with a slow, ancient intentionality. You watch as the indigo and amber waves of bioluminescence flow in perfect, silent sequences across the translucent architecture of the deep, a visual symphony that requires no name and no explanation to be profoundly moving. Inside the small, warm sanctuary of the cabin, the atmosphere is one of absolute, heavy peace. You can feel the faint, rhythmic vibration of the life support systems through the soles of your feet, a gentle, mechanical heartbeat that keeps you grounded while you drift at the very edge of human understanding. The control panels glow with a soft, steady amber, reflecting in the dark glass and casting long, comforting shadows that move with the slow tilt of the vessel. You are floating in a realm where time itself has slowed to the pace of the trenches, where minutes and hours have no meaning, and there is only the eternal, quiet continuity of the deep. You think about the nature of discovery and the human curiosity that has carried you 7 miles down into this crushing silence. We often embark on journeys like this seeking answers, hoping to peel back the layers of the dark and find names for everything we see, but the Mariana Trench teaches a different lesson. It is a place that reminds us that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but simply witnessed. There is a deep, quiet beauty in the realization that our perception is limited, that reality in these extreme depths may exist in forms that our senses were never meant to interpret. Some parts of our world may always remain unknown, not because of a lack of technology, but because the abyss speaks a language of silence and pressure that we are only just beginning to hear. The vast, shifting presence outside continues its rhythmic dance, an expansive field of light that now seems to encompass the entire world you have entered. It is neither biological nor geological in any way we would recognize, but a third thing, a manifestation of the Earth's oldest processes and the ocean's hidden life, coexisting in a state of perfect, weightless equilibrium. You feel a sense of profound humble curiosity, a quiet reverence for the depth and the time that have preserved this sanctuary for eons. The sonar pings one final time, the sound traveling out into the velvet blackness and returning with a soft, echoing signature that suggests the trench floor continues to fall away into even deeper, more silent valleys far beyond the reach of your instruments. You are at the threshold of the final unknown, a place where the history of the planet is written in the stillness of the water and the weight of the dark. The journey has not ended with a revelation, but with a deeper, more subtle question, a feeling that the mystery is far larger than the discovery itself. You find yourself sinking deeper into the calm of the submersible, your eyes heavy and your mind at peace as the patterns of light outside begin to slowly fade, not because they are ending, but because you are gently withdrawing, allowing the abyss to return to its natural state of undisturbed shadow. You adjust the thrusters for a final, slow-motion hover, watching as the shimmering, golden core of the presence retreats into the indigo gloom, becoming a faint, pulsing star in a liquid galaxy. The Mariana Trench remains what it has always been, a place of silence, of time, and of hidden continuity, a dark cathedral that guards the secrets of the world with a patient, beautiful indifference. You feel the sub settle into the current, drifting with a weightless grace as the lights are slowly dimmed, leaving you in a soft, charcoal-gray twilight. The silence is absolute, and it is a comforting embrace, a reminder that the ocean continues its quiet work long after we have turned our eyes away. You are no longer an intruder or a researcher, you are simply a part of the stillness, a passenger on a journey that will continue in your thoughts even as the narration fades. The shadows of the deep Pacific wrap around the vessel like a heavy blanket, and you let the rhythmic hum of the machinery carry you into a dreamless, peaceful sleep. Somewhere below, the light continues to pulse, the water continues to flow, and the ancient heart of the trench beats on in the eternal dark, an endless and quiet unknown that will always be there, waiting in the silence of the great deep. The journey is not over, it has simply become part of the dark, a slow and beautiful drifting into the heart of the world where the mystery remains whole and the silence is never broken. You are safe, you are still, and the abyss is at rest.